Tonight we're witnessing a seismic shift in the North American auto industry, one that's sending shockwaves through boardrooms, assembly lines, and entire communities across the continent. The auto world, long a symbol of American innovation and prosperity, is now facing a crossroads unlike any in recent memory. This transformation could reshape the lives of American workers and the very fabric of towns built around car manufacturing. For generations, these factories have been the heartbeat of local economies, supporting not just workers, but also small businesses, schools, and public services that rely on the industry's success. Now, Japanese auto giants like Nissan, Honda, and Toyota are reportedly considering a dramatic exit from the US market, a move that would have been unthinkable just a decade ago, given their deep roots and decades of investment in American soil. The reasons behind this potential exodus are complex. Escalating trade tensions, the relentless pace of technological change, and fierce global competition are all converging to create a perfect storm. Automation and new tariffs have made it harder than ever to stay profitable. But this isn't just a business story, it's about the economic stability of tens of thousands of American families. When a factory closes, it's not just jobs that are lost, it's a sense of identity, security, and hope for the future. Nissan's global restructuring and the meteoric rise of electric vehicle startups like Rivian highlight an industry in flux. Old giants are struggling to adapt, while new players surge ahead, fueled by innovation and changing consumer demands. The potential departure of Japanese automakers is a direct response to mounting economic and political pressures, both at home and abroad. Executives are weighing tough decisions, while workers and communities brace for impact. For decades, these companies relied on stable trade policy and predictable markets. Now, that foundation is cracking, leaving uncertainty in its wake and forcing companies to rethink their future in America. Decisions made in Tokyo and Washington in the coming months could redraw the map of auto manufacturing for years to come, influencing where cars are built, who builds them, and which communities thrive or struggle. This is a story with consequences for every American who depends on the auto industry. Whether you work on the line, own a dealership, or simply drive a car built in the USA. The road ahead is uncertain, but one thing is clear: the auto world will never be the same. At the heart of this crisis is the threat of new tariffs. Former President Trump has revived talk of steep taxes on imported cars and parts, reigniting anxiety among international automakers. For Honda and Toyota, tariffs could make US-built cars less competitive by driving up production costs. A car assembled in Ohio or Kentucky relies on a global supply chain. Tariffs on key parts could add thousands to the sticker price. Automakers are now running scenarios. At what point do tariffs make it cheaper to move production to Canada or Mexico? The goal of tariffs is to protect American jobs, but in a global industry, the result could be the opposite, pushing companies to leave. The very workers these policies aim to help could end up paying the highest price. The stakes for American manufacturing have never been higher. Japanese automakers now face a stark and unprecedented choice. Should they absorb the steep costs of new tariffs and risk losing their hard-won market share in the United States, or should they scale back their US operations, potentially pulling out of a market that has been central to their global success for decades? Honda and Toyota alone operate 18 advanced manufacturing plants across the country. The idea of shutting down even a single facility would have been unthinkable just a few years ago, as these plants represent billions in investment and thousands of American jobs. Until recently, closing multiple facilities was simply not on the table for these traditionally cautious and long-term focused companies. Their commitment to the US market has been unwavering. But now, with rising costs and political uncertainty, temporary shutdowns and production shifts are being seriously considered, not just as business decisions, but as powerful political statements that could influence future policy. Even a short-term halt in production would send shockwaves through the supply chain, affecting not only the automakers themselves, but also suppliers, logistics companies, and leaving thousands of workers and their families in a state of uncertainty. Ultimately, these companies are being forced to weigh their long-standing loyalty to the US market against the interests of their shareholders, who are demanding profitability and stability in an increasingly volatile environment. If tariffs continue to drive up the cost of US production, the temptation to move manufacturing elsewhere, perhaps to countries with lower costs or more favorable trade agreements, will become harder and harder to resist. While automakers hope to avoid such drastic measures, behind the scenes, contingency plans are being drawn up, and preparations for possible relocations are already underway. The mere possibility of plant closures is sending a chill through communities nationwide, where entire local economies depend on these factories for jobs and stability. Over the next few months, a series of critical decisions will be made, decisions that will determine whether these companies choose to stay and fight for their place in the US market, or go and seek new opportunities elsewhere. Whatever the outcome, the effects will ripple far beyond the factory floor, shaping the future of entire communities and the broader American economy. The threat of plant closures is a real danger for towns across 13 states. From Marysville, Ohio, to Georgetown, Kentucky, these plants are pillars of their communities. Honda and Toyota employ over 55,000 Americans in skilled, well-paying jobs. In places like Georgetown, losing a plant would devastate the local economy and erase decades of progress. The risk isn't limited to one location. Every plant is under scrutiny. Older or less efficient facilities could be first on the chopping block, but no site is truly safe. The loss of even a single plant would be catastrophic for workers and their families. Communities that once relied on foreign investment now face an uncertain future. Every worker is watching Washington, hoping their job isn't the next casualty. The stakes are personal, immediate, and deeply felt. Behind every corporate decision are real people, men and women who have dedicated their lives to building America's backbone, often working long hours in challenging conditions to provide for their families. Today, 55,000 American workers are facing an uncertain future, unsure if their jobs will still exist tomorrow, or if their livelihoods will be swept away by forces beyond their control. In many small towns across the country, the auto plant isn't just a workplace. It's the heart of the community, the economic engine that keeps everything running. These jobs support mortgages, pay for college tuition, and keep local businesses alive, fueling the dreams and aspirations of entire families. If these jobs vanish, there are few alternatives that offer the same pay, benefits, or long-term stability, leaving families scrambling to make ends meet. A shutdown would mean a surge in unemployment, putting immense strain on social safety nets and local charities already stretched thin. But the impact goes even deeper than lost wages. It's about lost identity, dignity, and the pride that comes from skilled work passed down through generations. Many workers have spent decades honing their craft, mastering complex skills that are not easily replaced or transferred to other industries. Retraining for new careers is daunting, often requiring workers to start over in unfamiliar fields, usually for lower pay and less security. The story echoes the decline of the Rust Belt, where once thriving towns were hollowed out by factory closures and job losses, and now, that same threat looms over communities in the South and Midwest, putting their futures at risk. Anxiety is rising. Workers check the news daily, fearing for their livelihoods, wondering if the next headline will bring more bad news. The human cost is measured in sleepless nights, worried families gathered around dinner tables, and the silent stress that lingers in every home. For these communities, the threat is all too real, sparking urgent conversations at town halls and community meetings as residents search for answers and hope. The future of American manufacturing and the fate of countless families hangs in the balance as the nation watches and waits for what comes next. The closure of a single auto plant sends shockwaves far beyond its gates. For every direct job lost, up to 8 more in related industries, suppliers, logistics, maintenance, are at risk. That's potentially over 400,000 jobs nationwide. Local businesses, from diners to dealerships, would see sales plummet as household incomes disappear. The cycle of decline can be swift: more layoffs, business closures, and shrinking tax revenues. Public services, schools, roads, emergency response suffer as budgets collapse. A once thriving town can quickly face a fiscal crisis, struggling to provide even basic services. The ripple effect of a plant closure can hollow out an entire community. It's not just about lost jobs, it's about the unraveling of local life. The stakes for these towns couldn't be higher. While the US faces uncertainty, Canada is seizing the moment. The Canadian government is aggressively courting automakers, offering stability and incentives. Canada's reputation as a predictable trade partner is a major draw for companies weary of US tariff threats. Financial incentives and subsidies sweeten the deal, especially for electric vehicle and battery plants. Canada is also leveraging its skilled workforce and critical minerals needed for EVs. By building a full ecosystem, from mining to manufacturing, Canada is positioning itself as the future hub of auto production. If Japanese automakers shift production, Canada is ready to welcome the jobs and investment. The North American auto map could be redrawn, with Canada as a major winner. The US risks losing not just factories, but the next generation of auto innovation. The competition for jobs is heating up north of the border. All of this is happening as the auto industry undergoes its biggest transformation in a century, the shift to electric vehicles. Traditional automakers like Nissan, Toyota, and Honda are balancing legacy gasoline models with massive EV investments. New players like Rivian are all in on electric, building factories from scratch and moving fast. The race for EV dominance is reshaping where and how cars are built. Governments that support battery plants and secure critical minerals will attract the next wave of jobs. Canada's focus on EV infrastructure is a direct play for this future. The regions ready for the EV revolution will win the manufacturing jobs of tomorrow. Those left behind risk losing their place in the industry. The road ahead for North American auto manufacturing is uncertain but full of possibility. Tariffs have exposed the fragility of global supply chains and the risks of political brinkmanship. The future will be shaped by policy and technology. Stability and innovation will attract investment. The shift to electric vehicles is redrawing the industry map. For the US, losing plants to Canada should be a wake-up call. Protectionism that costs American jobs is a failed strategy. Building a competitive future means investing in new tech and supporting workers, not driving companies away. This is about more than cars. It's about the future of work and the strength of our communities. North America can choose partnership and innovation, or risk a race to the bottom. The livelihoods of hundreds of thousands hang in the balance, waiting to see which road we take.